Have you ever wondered, can a single insult about someone's appearance or a public mocking laugh change the course of a person's life? For Marissa, it happened at the Charleston Festival when she was humiliated simply for sitting in the wrong VIP seat. But what no one could have predicted was that this mockery would become a turning point, transforming her from a disrespected employee into a woman who strikes fear into the hearts of the entire corporation. This story will intrigue you, surprise you, and warm your heart before you go to sleep. Don't forget to click subscribe so that you always have a great story to listen to in the evenings. Summer in Charleston is always bustling. Lanterns hang along the streets, and the smell of grilled corn, steamed lobster, and funnel cake mingle into a sweet aroma that makes everyone stop in their tracks. I, Marissa Clark, 32 years old, after 2 months of being buried in books and reports, rewarded myself with a day of escape. Today, I'll eat well, breathe freely, and not think about my weight or any balance sheets, I told myself. As I strolled through the central square, I spotted a row of tables covered in pristine white tablecloths with sunflowers neatly arranged in vases. There were no reserved signs, no security guards blocking the way. To be honest, my feet were killing me in my high heels, so I pulled out a chair, sat down, placed my bag beside me, and felt an immediate sense of relief. Soon a waiter brought me a cup of grilled coconut ice cream, the smooth cold cream covered with crispy coconut flakes. I took a spoonful and put it to my lips. Oh my God. The taste almost made me cry. It had been so long since I had allowed myself to enjoy something without restraint, without defense. But then, a shadow fell across the table. I looked up. A tall man in a white shirt, with rolled up sleeves and simple khaki pants, stood there exuding confidence. His eyes scanned the table, then stopped on me. Before I could understand what was happening, a deep voice rang out loud enough for several tables around us to hear. This VIP table. I don't think it was designed for someone this big. The entire square seemed to pause for a moment, then burst into laughter. Someone even said Cold Creamery is going to go bankrupt because this customer ate the entire factory. My face burned. I was about to get up and leave. I was used to being criticized behind my back, but this time, it was in front of hundreds of people. At that moment, I just wanted to disappear. But then the man I realized, it was Ethan Cole, CEO of Cole Creamery, the festival's biggest sponsor, pulled up a chair across from me and smiled slowly. Sit down. If you ate my ice cream by mistake, at least say thank you. I froze. I didn't know whether to feel more humiliated or curious about this strange man. The next morning, I walked into my usual coffee shop on the corner of King Street, thinking I would have a cappuccino and start my day as usual. But the look in the eyes of the owner, who always called me her golden accountant because I could do math faster than a calculator, was different today. She leaned over the counter and lowered her voice, as if revealing a secret. Marissa, haven't you heard? All of Charleston is talking about you. I frowned. What news? She winked. The fact that you sat at the VIP table last night with Ethan Cole. I froze. My heart was pounding. It had only been one night, and that humiliating incident had already become hot news. Leaving the cafe, I walked down the old cobblestone street, my steps heavier. People sitting at the flower shop and seafood restaurant whispered as I passed by. I could hear them clearly. That's her, the fat girl who sat at the VIP table. They call her the walking ice cream tub. Did you hear? But why was Ethan sitting with her? Is it a PR stunt? I lowered my head, wanting to swallow the air to stop the tears. But it didn't stop there. When I got to work, my colleagues, who used to call me accounting boss, looked at each other and giggled. A photo from the festival had spread throughout the internal chat group. I was sitting at a table covered with a white tablecloth, my face bright red, holding a coconut ice cream cone. The caption read, VIP, very immense person. The whole office burst into laughter. My hands were shaking and my phone felt like it was about to break in my grip. In that moment, I realized that I had become the city's entertainment. The next day, I stood in front of the shiny glass building of Cole Creamery in Charleston's old port area. From a distance, it looked like both a factory and an art gallery, shiny steel, the sweet smell of vanilla caramel and chocolate wafting through the air. Ethan stepped out of the lobby, his sleeves rolled up, a clipboard in his hand. He didn't look like a CID guy, a CEO sitting in an office. He looked like a factory manager walking around keeping an eye on every detail. When he saw me, he smiled slightly. Right on time. I like that. Ready to try some, Marissa? I crossed my arms, pretending to be calm. If you're not going to make a fool of me again. He just smiled, without explaining. Inside, a bright, long room had 12 small cups of ice cream, each labeled with a different color. We'll start off light and work our way up, he said like a coach. I took the first spoonful, toasted coconut and almond. Delicious, rich, safe. Then came salted caramel, so salty and spicy that I coughed, making Ethan laugh. It's okay. Everyone reacts the same way the first time. We continued pumpkin cheesecake, strawberries, sprinkled with red pepper, Earl Grey tea with licorice. The more I tried, the more curious and slightly dizzy I became. By the 10th glass, I had to put down my spoon and hold my head. I'm drunk on ice cream. Really? He quickly took me out to the balcony. The salty sea breeze blew through, balancing the sweet coldness inside. A glass of cool lemonade was placed in my hand. I took a sip, exhaled, and felt relieved. In that moment, I caught a glimpse of a different side of Ethan, not the cold-hearted CEO, but a man who knew how to care. But before I could say thank you, his phone rang. He frowned, listened for a few seconds, then hung up. Hathaway Corporation, he muttered. Before I could ask, the large screen in the lab lit up with a new news headline, Cole Creamery is hiring. The fast-eating fat girl as a tester. Is this the new standard for a national brand? Below was a photo of me from the festival the day before. I was smiling awkwardly, a half-eaten ice cream cone still in my hand. Comments exploded like a storm. Cheap PR. Who would choose her to represent the brand? She's a tub of ice cream, fat and greedy. No surprise there, Cole Creamery is about to be taken over by Hathaway. The room fell silent. The employees looked at me, then at Ethan. The blood rushed to my face, my hands clenched and trembling. These weren't just jokes on the street anymore. This was a direct attack from a $1 billion corporation, using my weight to bring down the entire company. I turned to Ethan, my voice choked up. You see, I'm just a burden. They're using me to destroy you. Ethan remained silent for a moment, then suddenly replied, his voice low but firm. No, Marissa. They think you're the weak link, but you will be the strongest weapon we have to defeat them. I was speechless. Only one thought echoed in my mind. If this is a game, am I willing to play until the end? That night, I couldn't sleep. News images and mocking comments flooded my phone. I curled up on the bed, feeling both angry and helpless. Why? Just because of my body? Did I have to be turned into a tool to discredit an entire company? At midnight, my phone rang. It was Ethan. Are you still awake? I can't sleep, I said with a bitter laugh. Then come to the factory. I have something to show you. When I arrived, the lights in the lab were still on. Ethan stood in front of the tasting table, holding a spoon, his eyes shining with determination. On the table was a small box labeled Salted Caramel Courage. Courage. I frowned. Courage. He nodded. Hathaway wants to make you a laughing stock because of your weight. So let's turn that into a message. Have the courage to be yourself. I hesitated picking up the spoon. The sweet caramel melted in my mouth, with a hint of saltiness like tears, ending with a warm aftertaste like a hug. I looked up, smiling involuntarily. It is just like me. Sweet, salty, and more than people think. Ethan leaned on the table, leaning toward me. Tomorrow we'll announce this flavor. Not as a new product, but as a statement. And you'll stand with me. I was stunned. Are you crazy? Who would want to hear a fat girl talk about courage? He looked straight into my eyes, his voice firm. That's exactly why they'll have to listen. Because if you can stand up after everything they've thrown at you, that's true courage. The next day at Charleston Square, Ethan unveiled the new flavor in front of hundreds of spectators and the media. The crowd fell silent as he spoke. Salted caramel. Courage is inspired by Marissa Clark, the woman who turned every insult into strength. Let this salty flavor remind us that sometimes pain is the beginning of pride. Flashbulbs popped. People cheered. I stood next to him, my heart racing, but when I saw a chubby little girl in the crowd, smiling brightly, I knew. Ethan was right. That day, for the first time, I was no longer just the fat joke. I was a symbol. And Hathaway never expected that the weapon they used to humiliate me would become the fire that united Charleston behind us. The Salted Caramel Courage campaign was announced and caused a sensation. Articles, vlogs, and photos spread with the hashtag #AgCourage with Marissa. Instead of mockery, for the first time, I saw different comments on social media. She's just like me, and if she can hold her head high, so can I. I'll buy Salted Caramel Courage, not just because it tastes good, but because of the message. She's not a joke. She's our representative. But Hathaway Foods wasn't going to give up that easily. Just a few days later, they held a press conference and launched a counter-campaign. On a big screen, they played a sarcastic ad. An animated woman, overweight, hugging a giant ice cream cone, sitting so tightly in her chair that the table broke in half. The audience burst into laughter. I sat in front of the TV, my heart sinking, my hands cold. Ethan immediately called an emergency meeting. This is dirty, but it's also an opportunity. They want to use this image to humiliate you, Marissa. Let's turn it on them. The next day, Cold Creamery released a response video. It wasn't a glossy commercial, but me sitting in front of the camera speaking candidly. Yes, I'm fat. I've been ridiculed. I've cried when people laughed behind my back. But I also work 12 hours a day to support my family. I'm also the one who came up with the idea that saved a brand from being wiped off the map. And I'm not sorry for this body, because courage isn't measured by the number on a scale. That video spread faster than any commercial Hathaway had ever paid for. People no longer saw me as a victim, but as a living testament to resilience. As for those who once mocked me in the office, one morning they turned on the TV and saw me, Marissa Clark, the fat bookkeeper of yesteryear, standing on stage with Ethan, signing a national distribution deal For Cole Creamery, below the text read, "From laughingstock to icon, Marissa Clark, the new face of courage." The room fell silent. The person who had once photoshopped me into a VIP, very immense person, sat there pale faced. I walked past them in my new dress, smiling. That joke back then, thanks. It's because of that I'm standing here today. Their eyes avoided mine, and for the first time in years, I felt sweeter than caramel. The last night of the summer festival in Charleston was as bright as a starry sea. The central square was covered with colorful flags, and golden lights stretched across the sky. The sweet smell of ice cream funnel cakes and grilled corn mingled with the sound of acoustic guitars and the laughter of thousands of people. Cole Creamery had the largest booth, and this time I was no longer standing outside. I wore a navy blue dress and carried a name tag that read Marissa Clark, Creative Flavor Director. People came up to me, shook my hand, took pictures with me, and called me by my name, instead of the cruel nicknames they had given me years ago. As the program was coming to an end, the MC said, "Before we close, CEO Ethan Cole has something special to share." I turned to see Ethan walk onto the stage, holding a microphone. He wore a simple white shirt, but his eyes were bright and determined. "Charleston, thank you for always supporting Cole Creamery. And thank you for recognizing one thing. Courage isn't about being perfect. It's about standing up when you're mocked." He paused, then turned to me, his voice softening. "Marissa, it all started the day you sat in the wrong VIP seat and were mocked by the entire city. But today, you turned that humiliation into strength for me, for this company, and for the entire community. And there's one more thing." He stepped down the stairs and walked toward me. In his hand was a chocolate-covered ice cream cone sparkling with almond flakes. Everyone burst into laughter as he handed it to me. I took a bite and nearly choked when I realized there wasn't just ice cream inside, but a silver ring with a bright blue gemstone. Cheers erupted across the square. I covered my mouth with my hands, tears welling up in my eyes. Ethan knelt down, his voice clear and warm amidst the crowd. "Marissa Clark, will you share all the flavors of life with me, from sweet to salty, from bitter to happy, until the end of our days?" In that moment, all the humiliating memories flooded back. The mocking laughter, the contemptuous glances, the cruel memes, and I knew this was the sweetest moment of revenge. I laughed through my tears and took his hand. "Yes, but on one condition. You have to create a new ice cream flavor for me every week." Fireworks exploded across the Charleston sky. Flashes of light filled the air. The crowd roared like a tidal wave. And I, Marissa Clark, once called the walking ice cream container, stood in the arms of the man I loved with an entire city cheering for us. That night I understood sometimes revenge doesn't require a sword. All you need is to become something so great that no one dares to mock you again. A year later, it was festival season in Charleston again. The main street was as vibrant as ever. But for me, everything was different. I, Marissa Cole, was not only Ethan's wife, but also the creative director of flavors at Cole Creamery. My name appeared on the signboard in the product catalog, and even in the national advertising campaign, "Courage comes in all sizes." Children ran around the booth holding cups of caramel-covered ice cream. I sat with them smiling and instructing, "Don't put too many toppings or the ice cream will spill." Just like life, you have to know what to keep. The children burst into laughter. Parents standing nearby nodded, many coming over to shake my hand and say thank you. And then in the crowd, I recognized a few familiar faces, former colleagues, the ones who had sent me photos of me with the caption VIP, very immense person. They stood there embarrassed, unable to look me in the eye. I just smiled, no response needed, because that awkward silence was their sweetest failure. That evening, as the golden lights covered the square, Ethan stood beside me, his shirt sleeves rolled up, scooping ice cream for customers, just like the day I first met him. He leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Do you remember? It all started with a VIP seat and a coconut ice cream." I laughed and rested my head on his shoulder. "Yeah, and now we have an empire." Fireworks exploded in the Charleston sky. I looked around. I saw smiles. I saw the confident eyes of the young, chubby girls in the crowd. I knew that my story didn't end here, because body shaming is still out there. But now I'm not alone. I have Ethan, I have this community, and I have a belief as long as you stand up, turn humiliation into motivation, anyone can find their own sweetness. And I know this summer and many summers to come, the taste of courage will never fade.